Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In previous videos I've been removing suspension pieces slowly but surely, and today we're just going to clear everything out that's left in this fender well. So let's take a look. In previous videos I removed the brake rotors and springs, dust shield, but today what you're going to see is removing the lower control arms, spindle, separating the spindle from the control arm here. We're going to be removing the strut, which we're going to be reusing. We're reusing the spindle as well. Also removing the camber plate, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to be removing all of this stuff. Some things you're going to need. You need a breaker bar. We've got a 21 millimeter, 24 millimeter, 18 millimeter, all deep well. Got a 13 millimeter and a 15/16. I will be using impact gun. I know it's pretty rare to see on this channel, but it's really the best way to get the nut off the top of the strut here. So we'll be using an impact wrench for that. And then got a couple hammers and a couple pairs of pliers, and of course liquid wrench. And that's really all you need. Just a little sneak peek of what we've got going in place of all that is the UPR lower control arm, which this model keeps the spring in its original location, and also the end links. The end link I'm using from Profane. And then what you don't see here that I'm also putting in is the Stita caster camber plates. So let's get busy. Okay, let's talk about a couple things first. If you're just going to be replacing the lower control arm, here's kind of what you need to do. You do need to go ahead and remove the spring. I would do that first. So to do that, I would disconnect the end link here at the top or the bottom. And then you put a jack under here with the Carlin jack stand. You'll put a jack under the control arm. You'll pull out both bolts from the strut, and you just let the jack down just like so, and then your spring will pop right out. Then you'll need to reattach the spindle here to the strut, just to kind of hold it, and then you'll disconnect the ball joint right here, knock this loose, take out the two bolts here, the control arm will drop right out. So then you don't have to necessarily disconnect the tie rod end here, and you can leave it attached to the spindle. So I have removed the tie rod end, inner and outer tie rods. I'm going to be replacing those. They were very loose. What I'm going to do first, which you may not be able to see too well, is remove the end link here. So it still has a 13 millimeter nut down here on the bottom. And you just have to hold the shaft here to keep it from spinning. Okay, I didn't mention this when I first started, but you'll want to spray ahead of time some liquid wrench here on the ball joint, on the nut here, and also on the bolts for the control arm. So you can spray it in here on this side and on the this side where you can see the threads there. And that'll just help all that break loose. Also, if you're going to be removing the strut, you can spray it up on the threads where the nut comes off the top of the strut. All right, let's keep moving. The next thing we're going to do is remove this nut. Now I've got a bolt holding this temporarily, so you can see I've dropped this down one. That's just to give me a little bit more space in here. All right, so the first thing we need to do is take out this cotter pin. So let me tell you what you're going to need for this first. So I've got my needle nose pliers. I've got my 24 millimeter socket we'll put on there. I've got I'm using a breaker bar and the regular 1/2 inch ratchet, and I've got my small hammer and big hammer. So first things first, let's work on this cotter pin. go, pretty easy. Now I just need to break this nut loose. Now you want to make sure you get this nut all the way off before you try to break loose the ball joint, because this fitting right here is basically just pressed in. It's super tight. That's what's going to hold the, I guess the threaded part of the ball joint to keep it from spinning. If you were to break this loose and then try to get this nut off, it's not going to happen. You end up having to get a cutting wheel and cut the ball joint apart in here. So let's get this done. Actually, that broke loose easier than what I thought it was going to break loose. And I can just turn it by hand, so that's nice. No ratchet needed. Now I'm going to put this nut on upside down. Just till it gets to the top part of the threaded part of the ball joint. Just to give me a nice big surface here, because that's what I'm going to use my big hammer on, is hitting that. What I'm going to do first is take this smaller hammer, hit on this side, the end, flip it around. I'm going to hit on the other side here, and that'll basically that kind of jolt this the ball joint loose from the spindle. So I'm going to do that. Actually, you may have noticed that it actually dropped down while I was hitting the sides, so I don't even have to hit the top now. I can go ahead and take this nut back off of here. Completely loose. Take this bolt out of here, and now my spindle is free. Now you've got two choices. I can go ahead and break loose these nuts and bolts here, remove the control arm. But for me, the strut is just in the way, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove the strut up top. All right, so here we're gonna use the 15/16 on the impact wrench, and you'll want to hold the strut underneath so it doesn't fall out. I mean, I guess you could let it fall if you wanted, but I'm gonna hold it so it doesn't fall since I'm reusing it. And there we go. This should just pop right off. All right, now these are the 18mm. So just take these nuts off. The bolts are mounted to a plate underneath, which you don't have to hold. So you should just be able to turn it at the top. Maybe with a breaker bar. So there's that piece done. All right, so now I'm going to use my 21mm and my 24mm on this nut and bolt here and here. And that's pretty much it. After that, this thing will be ready to get out of the way. By the way, I don't know if you can see it or not, but this thing is just super loose, flopping around. So if I wasn't going to be replacing the entire control arm, I would definitely want to replace the ball joint at this point. that's it. These bolts should come out. The control arm should just drop right out. It's pretty stout. This thing is actually about 13 pounds. The UPR control arms I'm putting in are about 10 pounds. So for both sides, that's going to be a total 6 pound weight loss on the front of the car. With the added benefit of getting polyurethane bushings here instead of these rubber bushings. I can see these are starting to crack and come apart. So it'd be good to get some new bushings there and new tie rod ends, and new ball joint rather. So, because I know this ball joint's worn out. 6 months later. All right, when we come down here, we can see this is what we want to remove here on the plastic lining. And there are just some little plastic connectors here, Christmas trees if you want to call them that. They just push in. And then around the side, there's screws all the way around. Here. There's more around here along the edge of the fender well. And then when you come down over here, should be a screw there that's missing, and down here. And then this thing should pop out. You may have to wrestle with it just a little bit, but it will come out. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on video, but I will keep the camera running so you can see my progress here. Alright, I've gotten out all the screws and clips. I'm gonna have to get some new ones. One of them busted off right there. It's the hazards of working out here when it's cold. But the rest are all kind of damaged anyways. They've seen their better days. So got all the screws out. There's screws underneath here, underneath the ground effects. And there's a clip that's way under there somewhere. So I think I got all this out, so I'm gonna try to wrestle this thing out of here now. Well, it was harder than I remember. Of course, it's been 25 years since I've taken out one of these, but it's out. And be sure to pick up all your screws and clips before you take this out, because there's a lot of dirt and leaves and other stuff that's gonna come out. It's a big mess. All right, so next we're gonna start well, actually, I want to clean this up before I run any wiring in here, because I'm going to paint this, which is the kind of a secondary reason I wanted to pull the fender well out. Not only to run the wiring across up here, but also to clean this up and paint it before I put all the suspension back in. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I will be swapping out the brake hose and caliper, but that's part of a different series, and we're going to be painting this fender well, which will probably be in a different video. But my next video in this series, I'll be starting to put all the suspension pieces back in. I'll throw some links down in the summary for some of these videos. And that's it. I appreciate you watching. Please drop a comment down below, hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. See ya!